Parents shape us in ways we don't always see, with their hopes, their failures, and their legacies that they leave behind. For some, these expectations become a calling, for others a cage. And for Batman and Zatanna, it's both. For Bruce Wayne, his entire crusade is built on a promise to honour Thomas and Martha Wayne. Every night he puts on the cape and cowl, he's trying to live up to the ideals they embodied: compassion, justice, and hope, twisted through the lens of his own grief. Batman is a son who will never stop trying to be worthy of the family he lost. Zatanna Zatara's journey mirrors this, but in a different way. She grew up in the shadow of her father, the great Giovanni Zatara, a legendary magician whose name carried the weight of centuries of mysticism and performance. Where Batman fights crime to honour his parents, Zatanna honed her craft to make her father proud, to prove that she could carry on his legacy in her own right. Both of them are still performing for their parents even after death. Batman is the boy who never stopped grieving, and Zatanna is the girl who never stopped seeking approval. That shared drive is why their bond feels so natural. They see in each other the same relentless need to live up to a family name, and for Zatanna, that name begins with her father. So before I can discuss Zatanna, we need to talk about her father. Zatara the Magician debuted in Action Comics #1, published in 1938, the very same issue that introduced Superman. He was one of DC's earliest heroes, a magician who cast spells by speaking backwards to fight crime. He was a descendant of Leonardo da Vinci, and eventually DC revealed that he belonged to a subspecies of humanity, Homo Magi, with a natural affinity for magic and the supernatural. I don't want to suggest that the character was unpopular, but compared to the brightly coloured heroes like Superman, Wonder Woman and Batman, he was a little drab in his tuxedo and top hat. But that doesn't mean he was insignificant. In the Silver Age, starting in the mid-1950s, DC reinvented itself, taking older characters like the Flash and Green Lantern and giving them sleek, sci-fi inspired reimaginings. These were brand new heroes completely disconnected from their Golden Age counterparts. Zatara's successor, Zatanna, was a rare exception to this rule. She wasn't a reinvention, but his daughter, continuing his magical legacy. She made her first appearance in Hawkman #4, which was published in 1964. In this story, Zatanna was searching for her father, who had vanished. In truth, he was intentionally hiding because of a curse that had been placed on him, preventing him and his daughter from reuniting. Zatanna crossed multiple series, enlisting heroes from across the DC universe until the Justice League eventually helped her break the curse. This was one of the key things about Zatanna. She was a young woman alone in the world without either of her parents. Zatara had been hiding because of the curse, while her mother, Cindella, a sorceress, had been missing since giving birth to her. It was during this time that she switched from wearing a costume inspired by her father's stage attire to an outfit that resembled her mother's sorceress look. This change wasn't just style, it was symbolic of her struggle to honour both sides of her heritage, trying to live up to the expectations of two legacies at once. Over time, her costume evolved into a blend of both parents' styles, better reflecting her mixed lineage. Following Crisis on Infinite Earths, when DC reset most of their continuity, the majority of the Zatara family history remained intact, and they later appeared in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing for one of their darkest stories. Zatanna was the former girlfriend of John Constantine, and he brought Zatanna and her father, as well as some other eminent magical figures, in on a case to defend the world from a hideous demon called the Great Evil Beast. During a seance, the Great Evil Beast struck back, engulfing Sargon the Sorcerer, another Golden Age hero, in flames, before turning its fury upon Zatanna. Zatara sacrificed himself to save her, dying as a true sorcerer should, with courage. While Constantine was blamed for their deaths, Zatanna blamed herself too. She would appear in other stories after this, but they weren't as impactful. And actually, that's quite a neat summary. Zatanna is not a major player, but she has devoted fans, chief among them writer Paul Dini, who brought her into Batman the Animated Series in 1993 during the imaginatively titled episode Zatanna. This early version of Zatanna is simplified. She's still Zatara's daughter, but here she and her father are famous stage performers, not superheroes. They don't fight crime, they entertain. She doesn't wear an outfit inspired by her mother. In fact, there's no mention of her mother at all. Just the classic tuxedo, top hat and tights. The biggest change Dini made was giving Zatara a new role as one of Batman's early mentors. After his parents were murdered, young Bruce Wayne vowed to better himself and fight crime. He spent his youth travelling the world, studying under masters of every relevant discipline for his crusade. Batman trained with Zatara to master escape artistry, but Zatara also taught him misdirection and ventriloquism, a skill that seems random, but proved crucial in defeating the ventriloquist in Scarface, let's not forget. During this time, Bruce met Zatara's teenage daughter Zatanna. She was clearly smitten and her father approved, remarking that John Smith, as Bruce called himself then, learned skills in weeks that others would take a lifetime to master. They were clearly close as he gave her the nickname Zana, which nobody else used, which was a clear sign of affection. But at the same time, Bruce was hesitant. He didn't reveal his real name, even though on his next stop at a dojo in Japan everyone knew him as Bruce Wayne. These moments were more than training, they were steps in carrying forward family expectations that shaped who they would become. Years later, Zatanna returned to Gotham for a show that climaxed with her making the Gotham Mint disappear, only for it to reappear without any of the money. Zatanna was the obvious suspect, but Batman refused to believe that she was capable of such a thing, and the two teamed up to clear her name. There's a touching moment when Zatanna casually mentions how her life has been since Zatara's death, and the news catches Batman off guard. He had never been good at dealing with loss, and his reaction almost gives away his identity. Zatara had clearly been important to him. What actually gives him away, however, is when he calls Zatanna Zana to reassure her during a near-death experience. The pair are flung out of the back of a moving aeroplane thousands of feet in the air, and she is convinced that they are going to die. But when Batman uses that nickname telling her to trust him, she does, proof of how strong their bond remains even after decades apart. She had always wondered why he trained as an escape artist when he had no interest in performing. Now she had her answer. The noteworthy thing about this early version of Zatanna is that she is a performer, not a sorceress. She doesn't perform magic, it's all part of an act. Her magic is an illusion, the bank never really vanishes, it's just smoke and mirrors. But it's still a way of living up to the legacy her father left behind, even if the supernatural was off limits. This was because at the time the BTAS creative team had a hard rule of keeping their show as grounded as possible. No ghosts, witches, warlocks or zombies. But as the DC animated universe expanded, that rule softened. By the time of Justice League Unlimited, Zatanna is a full-blown magician, casting spells, making objects appear from out of nowhere, and she has figured out that John Smith is Bruce Wayne. When Cersei turned Wonder Woman into a pig in the episode This Little Piggy, Batman turned to Zatanna for help. Magic is her specialty, but more importantly, he chooses her over other magical experts like Dr. Fate or Etrigan because he trusts her. Zatanna takes Batman on a whirlwind tour of the mystical world, shopping for magical ingredients, interrogating Medusa in the Greek underworld, and finally confronting Cersei in an ancient amphitheatre. Despite Zatanna's power and all her efforts, only Cersei can break the spell. Batman may be persuasive, but he knows he has no hold over Cersei, so he strikes a bargain. Cersei agrees to lift the spell if Batman does something out of character, something he can never take back. Batman must sing. The song choice, Am I Blue, is perfect for Batman, a mysterious figure driven by loss and despair, and it gave the late Kevin Conroy a rare chance to sing his heart out. This is a fan favourite moment, Batman mournfully crooning to the delight of both Cersei and Zatanna. Zatanna may not be the most significant figure in the DC animated universe, but she remained important to Batman. In the Batman Beyond episode Out of the Past, an elderly Batman looks through photographs of the great loves of his life, and Zatanna is among them. By this stage, Bruce is old, frail, and haunted by his regrets. But the memory of Zatanna still makes him smile. She is a reminder of a time before the capes and cowls, back when he felt like he could truly change the world with just his fists and his wits. He may have been closed off to emotion, but he was optimistic, which is a stark contrast to his later years. Zatanna didn't originally have a direct connection to Batman, but Paul Dini canonized their young romance during his early 2000s Detective Comics run. Other writers have ran with that ever since, and this serves as another example of how the DC animated universe gave back to its comic book roots. Though their paths differ, one driven by grief, the other by the need to prove herself, they share the same hope, that somewhere, somehow, their parents are proud of them. For Bruce, it's a vow carved in grief. For Zatanna, it's a lighter but no less powerful need to prove that she could carry Zatara's legacy forward while still being her own woman. This shared burden is exactly why their connection feels so genuine. Whether they're teenagers awkwardly avoiding their feelings, or adults saving the world, they see themselves in each other. And maybe that's why years later, when Bruce Wayne looks back on the people who mattered most to him, Zatanna still makes him smile. For all their pain and for all the weight they carried, when they were together, they could almost forget the expectations and simply be two people who truly understood each other. Okay, that's it for this week's essay. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell all your friends about me. You know how YouTube works. If you really enjoyed the video and have the means, please consider making use of the thanks button to send a buck or two my way, because every little helps. I offer channel memberships for $1.99 a month. This will get you early access to my weekly video essay, priority responses to your comments, members-only videos, custom emojis, and an icon on your profile indicating that you're one of my people. And special thanks to my channel members. Everyone who was a member at the time of this video's creation is listed on the screen right now. If you want to see your name amongst all these wonderful people, join the channel now. Next time, I'll be back on Monday when I want to discuss one of my favourite episodes of Batman the Animated Series, Almost Got Him. In this story, Gotham's worst trade stories about how they almost did in The Batman, with an unexpected twist. And then next Friday, it's time to get back to the results of my latest Superman the Animated Series villain poll to talk about the lusty Queen of Almerac, Maxima. Hope to see you then.